It's been well documented on my channel that I used to be a timid, insecure, shy little boy. So shy that I would stammer and stutter just speaking to others. Honestly, I don't think anybody could have been more insecure than I was back then. And to keep it all the way real with you as always, it didn't stop at my childhood. I found myself now a grown adult male, still trying to pick up the pieces, still trying to figure out who I was and find my purpose as a man. Jumping from job to job trying to make something out of myself. And in 2020, I found myself homeless, wandering the streets of Las Vegas. All of this ambition and desire burning inside of me, but no structure, no confidence, no systems, no idea how I was gonna make it to the land of milk and honey. But everything, and I do mean everything, changed once I started to immerse myself in the studies of psychology, esoteric principles, and the concept of building yourself an alter ego. The hardest battle that a man will ever fight is the one that he fights facing his own demons. But everything changed when I built an alter ego. I stepped into a new identity, one that was confident, powerful, unapologetically me. This alter ego became the man I needed to take control of my life, my purpose, and ultimately my future. I went from being a shy, insecure little boy that couldn't speak to a man that was now starring in commercials, leading other men, mentoring and coaching men from all over the world. And today, I'm a completely different person because of it. That being said, gentlemen, welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to share with you how creating an alter ego transformed me and how it can transform you too. How to create an alter ego. What's up, fellas and gentlemen? Welcome back to another video. Guys, in this video, I'm going to be diving into how any man can construct and create an alter ego for himself. Now, I've oftentimes said this in many different pieces of content that I have put out along my journey in my personal life of working through my mental battles, as well as in the line of work that I do as a mindset coach. I've oftentimes said this right here. To put it frank, most men just don't have it. And what I meant by that is most men just don't have that dog in them. Most men just don't have that fight in them in order to be able to achieve preeminence and great grandeur. But here's the thing, though the average man, which we are facing an epidemic like I've said before, men are not men anymore. Though the average man doesn't have it, the interesting thing is, and the good thing is, you can create it. And in this video, guys, I really want you to pay attention. I really want you to stop scrolling, take notes, because I'm going to explain to you the importance of creating an alter ego, the importance of understanding yourself as a success-driven man, as an ambitious man, and how by cultivating and activating and accessing different mental states can literally transform your entire life. So that being said, fellas, let's begin with the video, okay? Now, the alter ego effect, rebirth yourself into a new man. I want to ask you, gentlemen, a question. What would you be without your limitations? Every man watching this video has some type of psychological limitation or barrier, right? It doesn't matter. Oftentimes what I find, especially in men who are slightly above average, this being men who are already in positions of leadership, whether you are a trailblazer and one of the first people in your family to do financially well and you were corporate in technology, or you're an entrepreneur, right? Oftentimes leaders have the biggest issues and voids when it comes to self-image in terms of how they view themselves in their paradigm, okay? Now, the thing is, what if you could step into a version of yourself that exudes power, but sustained confidence and mastery, right? Most of you who watch my channel, in fact, most men who are into self-improvement, right, in this space, you're ambitious men, but you know deep down something is missing in your life. There is a discrepancy between the man that you are seeking to become and the man that you are right now, even if you're in a certain level or a certain type of position to where you're already in a role of leading, I want to talk to you guys about the invisible chains of self-sabotage. Now, I'm going to break down for you gentlemen very succinctly what I mean by self-sabotage, because perhaps somebody is just now coming across this concept of self-sabotage, right? So what does self-sabotage look like? We all do it. I'll give you guys an example. I've been candid on the channel and spoke to you guys about how growing up as a first generation immigrant, right, I had a severe speech impediment. I couldn't speak. I couldn't articulate myself with brevity. And so oftentimes when I would go into social interactions, my mind would tell me, what are you doing? You can't speak. You're not confident. And so this would paralyze me and I wouldn't be able to get out the words. I wouldn't be able to express myself or to speak. This permeated all the way into adulthood, into manhood, and it cost me money. It cost me business opportunities whenever my old paradigm, my subconscious mind would creep back up from limiting beliefs that were essentially birthed when I was an adolescent. Okay. Every gentleman, every man watching this video right now, I don't care how much money you make, especially the men who make a decent amount of money, right? If you are still struggling with self-sabotage, you're going to notice these signs right here. And that first sign is hesitation. You pause before taking bold action, right? Allowing doubt to creep in, right? If you pause before taking action towards the life that you want, or taking action towards a goal, taking action towards approaching somebody, maybe it could be a woman, maybe it could be a potential business partner, right? If you hesitate by any stretch of the word, you are self-sabotaging. You see, a man has to be able to decide what he wants. Okay. Let's dissect the word decide. Okay. De, from Latin, meaning from. Okay. Side, meaning to kill. You have to literally kill where you're from. So when you decide, you're killing any other possibility or option. You've made your decision, okay, to advance forward. So if you are hesitating and you cannot or have not made a decision, you are self-sabotaging as a man. And in fact, I would argue that that is contrarian to what being a man is, because masculinity is direction. Masculinity is certainty. Masculinity is definite of decision, it's leadership. And so if you hesitate in any sense of the word, you are self-sabotaging yourself, okay? Now, let's talk about downplaying your success, because this one right here is very important. It's very prominent. And this is something that I've also struggled with before. I have spoken to you gentlemen often about how most men these days are walking too lightly, right, on earth. And what I mean by that is you have to allow yourself to be great. You have to allow yourself to be successful. I know that sounds simple, right? But what I mean by this is oftentimes as ambitious men, we could think that, damn, I have to do this every single day. I have to suffer every single day. I have to do this. I have to do that. Oh, I'm a piece of shit. I'm this. We tell ourselves these stories, right? And we embody these identities. Okay. So when somebody compliments you, or when somebody sees that you're doing hard work and they say, yo, you're doing a fantastic job, right? You're doing this. Or wow, that's amazing. I admire this about you. You downplay your own success and your own achievement. Yeah, that's all right. But you know, I could be doing this. No, brother, you have to learn how to accept love, how to accept a compliment. This is something that a lot of men struggle with, especially successful men, because oftentimes successful men, what it takes to become, right, objectively successful is you literally have to go to certain places, certain mental depths to get there. And you're never satisfied, which we're going to talk a little bit about later on in this video. But you have to be able to pat yourself on the back. Indeed, a man should never rest on his past laurels, but you have to be able to pat yourself on the back and be like, yo, you know what? I did do that. And start to build up your confidence. Oftentimes, some of the most successful people are the most insecure, right? It's the same way how some of the most attractive women are also some of the most insecure. So when you can understand the psychology of this, it is quite fascinating, right? And then thirdly, imposter syndrome. You feel out of place in high level environments despite your qualifications. I remember, and I've told you guys this, I grew up in a very poor, humble family. And I remember my my first year making six figures, I'll be candid, was in 2021. And I was working in fintech. And I remember my life and my lifestyle just drastically changed. And all of a sudden, I had financial stability and I had options and I was doing all these different things and I was leading. I'm a young man leading, a team in tech, and it's literally all people that are double my age, right? And I had a lot of mental battles, right? Like, damn, am I good enough? Do I deserve all this money? I had all these different feelings, right? Like I just felt weird. I felt like an imposter. And what that feeling was my old paradigm. It was my old self-image, right? It was my old ways and habits of thinking based off of how I was brought up and the stories and the ideologies and the identity that I believed to be true. So what happened was I ended up fucking up that opportunity, lost the money, got it back, lost the money. And that was my life. My life was a sequence of being an ambitious man, right? More ambitious than all the other people around me for the most part. I've always had drive and achieving certain things, achieving certain accolades, but never being able to sustain the dominance, right? To continuously grow and sustain it, always falling back down the baseline because my paradigm, my mind, my psyche was of somebody that was poor, insecure, right? And this was the identity that I had. So if you are somebody struggling with imposter syndrome and you are an ambitious man, maybe you work in corporate, maybe you're an entrepreneur, the majority of clients that I work with are either corporate men that have a business that are trying to transition into their business full time, or they're businessmen. And what I find with businessmen like myself is oftentimes you can feel imposter syndrome, especially when you're the first person in your family to start making a certain type of money or having certain type of experiences. Okay. So these are three of the invisible chains of self-sabotage. And it was important to present this to you guys right now as we get deeper into this material, because now is where you really have to start paying attention if you aren't already, and really start taking notes and start implementing these things into your life as it pertains to creating an alter ego and why it's so important. Now, you have to create an alter ego in order for you to make it to the level that you say that you want to. Everybody watching this video right now, right? I'm assuming you're an insanely ambitious man, but your ambition is not enough, brother. Okay? You have to understand the power of an alter ego, the better version of you, because it's going to help you overcome that self-doubt that we just spoke about, okay? It's going to enable you to break through your limiting beliefs that have held you back. If you are 25 watching this video, if you are 35, if you are 45, if you are a man in your 50s watching this video, you've grown accustomed to thinking a certain way. Your patterns of thoughts are the same, okay? It is a known fact that we have about 70,000 thoughts per day. And of those 70,000 thoughts, 90% of them are the same as yesterday. Our daily actions and habits are cultivated from those 70,000 thoughts, which are old thoughts, meaning our reality is a representation of who we used to be, okay? Who we're accepting to be. So by creating an alter ego of the exact kind of man that you want to be, you are breaking this cycle and overcoming those stories that you have told yourself, okay? And reprogramming your mind for your success. Now, secondly, you are able to access peak performance, okay? Enter diluted, fervent flow states more easily and consistently. Now, the word fervent, which is one of my favorite words, I use it quite often. All fervent means is passion, to be passionate, right? Essentially a war cry when a man is in the midst of battle, right? And he's engaging and he's taking lives and he lets out a war cry, that emotion, right? Such as in sports, when you knock somebody out, when you get an and one in basketball, when you kick a goal, whatever it is, when you finally defeat the enemy and you let out that war cry. I'm getting chills right now. That is fervent, that is zealous when you are in that mental state of conquest. I'm getting chills because I love domination, right? Creating the alter ego allows you to tap into a mental state that behooves you as the individual, right? And you can conduct yourself in a fervent state as you're conquering your limiting beliefs. All right. Now, thirdly, it's going to enhance your overall personality and your charisma, right? It's going to enable you to develop a magnetic presence in social situations. What I've come to find out, especially as a man who has lived all over the world, as you guys know, and I speak multiple languages, as you guys know, is I've been a student of different societies and ways of living and thinking. And most people these days lack social skills, interpersonal communication skills. A lot of guys are timid, which would honestly probably explain why so many guys are going on these websites like, OF and all these different things, right? So by creating your alter ego, a different mental state, right? By getting into a different state, you can become more charismatic, more magnetic, more refined as a man, which is going to serve you in business. It's going to serve you in dating, relationships. It's going to serve you all around. This permeates into every area of your life. And then lastly, separate identities. Okay. Now, separate identities keeps personal vulnerabilities from affecting professional, sexual, or psychological performance, as I just spoke about before. Now, the question then becomes, who do you need to become as a man? Who do you need to become? Ask yourself that question. Oftentimes, it's easy for us to fantasize about the lives that we want, the status, the grandeur, right? The cars, whatever you seek. But it's not about getting those things, right? It's about becoming that which you seek. I've oftentimes said this, right? Now, the beauty of thinking about who you need to become as a man is that once you can identify this, it's going to grow you as a man. You're forced to keep growing and never remain stagnant. So first you have to define your ideal self, okay? Envision the skills, the confidence, and the presence this version of you possesses, okay? You got to make it real to yourself. Secondly, name your alter ego. This is important, right? You have to choose a powerful name like Alexander Steele. Now, I made a little joke here. I was like, this kind of sounds like a corn star, right? But just create an alter ego, one that embodies strength, right? And then thirdly, create an anchor. Pay very close attention. This is something that I don't hear a lot of on the internet, especially in this space. And I can attest to this from my personal experience, as well as from the experiences of the many clients that I've worked with. You have to create an anchor. Now, select a physical object that activates this persona when worn or touched, okay? Now, for example, my mental anchor right here is this. And this is my gold card. That's the Renaissance Man logo, but this is my gold card right here, okay? Now, I have every single gentleman that works with me do this. Why? It's because once we can identify where this gentleman wants to get to, once we create the alter ego, we then have the anchor. And the anchor is able to snap you back out of reality, not into reality. It snaps you out of reality. Okay? It's easy for us to get wrapped up in this world, our jobs, our families, right? Something perceivably bad happens. It's easy for us to get wrapped up in this 3D. But there's two ways that a man works on himself, gentlemen. In the 3D and on the 3D. As I said before, in the 3D is taking the actions, going to work, scaling the business, filming content, walking up to the girl, whatever it is. Working on the 3D is working on the mind and doing the mental work that we're talking about right now. Okay? And so it's imperative that we understand mental states. For example, right now, you gentlemen are receiving information. You're listening, right? You're learning. Your brain is currently in a beta state right now where you're learning information, right? Now, later after this video, when you choose to revise your notes, I would hope, and you're studying, right? You then go into a deep focus state, which brings your brain to alpha, okay? Now, once you have created your anchor, this could be a goal card like I have right here, where I have my goal on here, or it could be, I don't care if it's a teddy bear, right? Once you understand how to activate this state in your mind to where you become fervent, right? You can activate it or snap yourself out of reality at will, okay? Now, from here, you need to embody this energy. Think about how the best version of you would be, okay? Practice speaking, walking, dressing as your alter ego daily. I told you guys, I used to have a bad stutter. Now I am a mentor to dozens of men from all over the world. I'm an orator. I get coached to speak. Y también yo hablo un montón de idiomas para que tú sepas, okay? I speak multiple languages now. I speak clearly. Am I perfect? No. Nobody's perfect. But the fact that I can articulate myself this way is an enigma. And it's because I learned how to hack my mind, and I do the same thing for our gentlemen in modern day Renaissance man. Okay? So you need to be real intentional with this. What is it that you want right now in life as a man? Do you want to get 1% better? Are you already a high achiever and you want to get 1% better? The difference between getting 1% better might be eons. And the first way to get there is to anchor your mind, is to get definite on who you want to become, and then start embodying that man daily. Let's talk about the fun part. Let's talk about activating your alter ego. So we've spoken about defining your alter ego, right? We've spoken about embodying. We've spoken about anchoring, right? Thinking about who this man is going to be, who this best version of you is going to be when he's making $1 million a month, for when you have the family, when you have the status, whatever. Activation. The first way to activate this alter ego is through visualization. I've spoken to you guys about this in many pieces of content before. You need to mentally rehearse being your alter ego, okay? And it serves you when you do this before important events. Oftentimes for me, before an important speaking engagement or something or whatever, I'll just take some deep breaths, breath work, and I'll visualize and rehearse the scenario. Many athletes do this before games. Many artists do this before shows. Now, I personally recommend that you gentlemen visualize 2 to 4 times per day, every single day. This doesn't have to be a 30-minute visualization. It could be 5 minutes a pop. That's 20 minutes a day. Okay. Now, why is this important? This is important because this puts your mind in a theta state. Earlier, we spoke about beta and alpha. This puts your mind in a theta state. Okay. This specific state right here is when your mind, okay, when your brain is more malleable. This is you're typically in this state when you first wake up in the morning or right before you fall asleep at night, and you're kind of in between consciousness, okay? So you want to visualize in these states right here, or in this state right here, because your mind, your brain cannot tell what is real from what is fake. So once you get brevity and get concise about the kind of man that you want to be, start to visualize. How does it look when you walk up to your penthouse in Dubai, or when you get into your Aston Martin DBS, right? And you see the red letter seats and you touch the ceiling and you're touching the paddle shifters. How does it feel when you're on the stage speaking to 1,000 people? How does it feel when you purchase your mother a home and you build a home gym in that? Like, I'm talking to you guys about my goals right now, right? But I'm painting a picture for you. You have to be so vivid with your visualization. And unfortunately, men, as we get older, because we're logical and because the world and society beats down on us, we lose our higher faculty of imagination. We lose the ability to dream because the world tells us you can't dream. You got to go to work, wake up. Daydreaming is not encouraged. And so many men fall into the trap and lose the ability to visualize. But I'm telling you, you have to imagine, gentlemen. You have to imagine and see in your mind's eye far before you see it in this reality, okay? So visualizing at certain times during the day, such as in the morning, first thing, or right before bed, are going to serve you, because then you can pinpoint and target your subconscious mind directly, okay, as you're building up this new alter ego. Now, something else that I didn't put in this PowerPoint, but as a bonus to you, is there is something called a hemisync meditation. Now, the hemisync meditation is a special meditation that, well, synchronizes both hemispheres of the brain, and it pushes your mind into theta. So you can do this meditation at any point during the day. And so I oftentimes have our gentlemen do a hemisync, sometimes 1 to 2 times a day, to put themselves in theta as they're visualizing, okay? And so this is very powerful for reconstructing your self-image, reconstructing your subconscious mind, and building that alter ego, okay, when it's time for war. Let's talk about integration, right? Somebody might be watching this video right now and saying, yo, like, this all sounds good, but I mean, like, this is kind of fake, or like, this doesn't work, or whatever. Here's the thing. How do we integrate this into our daily lives? How do we integrate this into who we are right now as men? Well, you have to gradually blend the alter ego traits into your authentic personality. Because the thing is, the man that you are right now and the man that you want to be both exist. If you can conceptualize that version of yourself, it means that version of you already exists in a parallel universe, okay? In a different dimension. All a dimension is, fellas, is a perspective, okay? So right now I'm looking at a screen, I have a perspective. You're watching this video from God knows where, based off of the society that you're in, you have another perspective. That's all a dimension is. So if you can understand this, once you start to gradually integrate these new concepts of yourself, it then becomes your personality, okay? Now, let's talk about method acting. Study and adopt the mannerisms of your inspirational figure. Oftentimes, guys find inspiration from a lot of people, right? For me growing up, I found inspiration from James Bond, Bruce Wayne, right? Different people like the wrestlers, just different people that you can find inspiration from. What you're then gonna do is use that person as a model. No, you're not following their every move, but you take certain characteristics that you admire from them and you implement it into your life. For example, I have studied many great speakers, right? One of my pain points was I couldn't really speak. So I studied people like Tony Robbins and Les Brown, right? I studied many people on how they spoke. I also watched a lot of James Bond movies, and I was fascinated by how he was able to dip in and out of societies and speak different languages. So I modeled that. And now I'm a polyglot who has lived all over the world, and I speak multiple languages. And then lastly, like I said, just to reiterate, a physical anchor, whether it is your goal card, right? A card that has your goal on it, right? Or it is a cup, whatever. But the card I find is more practical because I just put it inside my wallet and I take it with me everywhere I go. And if I'm in the supermarket some days and it's in the middle of the day or whatever, I open up my wallet, and for that split second, I see the card and I can visualize myself. I can visualize myself being the alter ego, being the best version of myself, right? Now, let's talk about the Renaissance Man blueprint for mastery and presence. Now, if you guys have been watching me for a while, then you've heard me throw around the term Renaissance man. And all the word Renaissance mean is rebirth, revitalize, right? So a Renaissance man is a man that makes himself whole. It's a versatile man that keeps on growing, keeps on pushing the envelope, keeps on expanding, so to speak, a real life type of James Bond, right? A man that is well-versed and skilled. Now, this is the triangle of how to become a Renaissance man, the blueprint of creating this alter ego, okay? Now, the first thing is commanding presence, right? Fellas, you never want to rush. You're always in control of the room, okay? This is a position of power. If you guys haven't watched my boss energy video or the other videos where I'm giving you guys psychological tips on how to communicate better, how to control a room, how to lead a business deal, how to network with other high-level men, your presence speaks volumes. And the common issue that I have found working with so many guys, as well as taking a look at myself, is that there's a discrepancy between who you try to portray yourself to be and who you really are. You can be a leader right now in a top Fortune 500 company, and you can still be as insecure as a mouse. When you go home, you could be sleeping in silk sheets, cashmere, but you still feel small. And we can observe this in many revered men throughout history, right? We call this the Napoleon effect, right? You are not congruent. So to have a commanding presence, right? You got to tap into that best version of yourself, tap into that alter ego, be that alter ego, right? Now, secondly, is going to be refined skill set. You have to keep getting better, fellas. You have to keep growing. Just because you are in a position of status does not mean that you should ever get comfortable. A man should never rest on his past laurels. Now, this could be from learning languages to combat to social intelligence. Fellas, if you are not growing, you're dying. I don't care what your bank balance says right now. I don't care what you've accomplished in the past. Okay? You have to keep refining yourself until the day that you die. This is why you have to become a renaissance man. You have to keep on rebirthing and keep growing. Okay. And then thirdly, emotional control. You need to master your emotions. Never be reactive. You want to be poised and calm in any engagement. Okay. Always operate from a position of power in every single sector of your life, from women to business, every social interaction. You should be emotionally controlled as a man, especially as a leader. You never want to act off of haste. If you cannot control your own emotions, how are you going to lead a wife? How are you going to lead your children? How are you going to lead a company? Many of you guys say that you want to get into business, but you can't even exercise emotional control over your own personal life. And this is that discrepancy that you can feel at the top of the triangle. This is that discrepancy that women can feel when they get around you. You wonder why you can't keep a good woman. You wonder why you can't attract the woman that you want. It's that discrepancy right there. You don't have any control over yourself. And if you have any fiber of control, you cannot sustain it. There are weak points. Okay. Next is going to be a world-class network. You have to be able to navigate any environment with the right connections. I've oftentimes spoken to you gentlemen about building a cross-continental network of brothers, of other ambitious men. If you haven't seen my video on how to network with high-level men, I highly encourage that after this one, you go watch that video. You need a brotherhood, okay? You need other ambitious men that are on a similar path like you that can push you. There is no fucking way around this, fellas. Stop trying to do this by yourself. That whole lone wolf shit, monk mode shit, okay, is bullshit. Yes, there are seasons where you need to be alone to ponder and focus, but to truly aggrandize yourself and to grow, you need connections. You need to learn how to master the art of being social, how to communicate, and how to bond with other high-level men, because this will serve you in your low points in life. You need brothers to call on, okay? So you need a world-class network. And then lastly, effortless style, fellas. Please, gentlemen, I've spoken to you about this before. You have to present yourself as the best version of yourself in any situation. These days, men have lost class. Society as a whole has lost class and the ability to present yourself well in how you dress, and how you speak, and how you talk. This is paramount. And if you think that this goes unnoticed, I promise you, when you get into certain rooms, people notice your style. Is there plaque in your teeth? Are your teeth yellow? Is your skin healthy? Are you in shape, right? All of these sub-communication indicators, right? They speak volumes to your discipline or lack thereof as a man. So the alter ego version of you is going to have everything in this triangle down packed, okay? You're going to have the commanding presence. You're going to have the refined skill set, constantly getting better. You're going to have the emotional control. You're going to have the world-class network. You're going to have the effortless style. So as you're cultivating this new image of yourself, these have to be a part of that man. Let's talk about stepping into your new identity. Okay. Now, as I said before, you want to name your alter ego. For example, my alter ego is Jacques. Jacques is actually my name. Now, Dudley is partially the man that is speaking to you now, but there are definitely elements of Jacques that are speaking to you right now because I'm educating. And anytime that I tap into my educator or speaker, right, that is Jacques, because Dudley traditionally was the little shy Haitian boy, the little timid boy, and I needed to cultivate a different part of my psyche in order to break out of the mental purgatory that I was in. I owe 100% of my success today to me being able to switch in and out of mental states. And so you have to name your alter ego, right? As I said before, write down his name and his traits. Okay. I hope you guys are actually taking notes. All right. Now, as I said before, just to recap, choose an anchor. Okay. I'm going to say certain things to you guys in this video over and over again to make sure and really drive home that you're doing these things. This will not work if you do not take heed to this advice. Okay. Choose your anchor and select a physical object that will trigger you. Okay. And trigger your transformation. I recommend that it is a gold card or some type of object that you can carry with you at all times. This makes it way more practical. Thirdly, this is something a lot of people don't talk about. Create a ritual. Design a daily routine that activates your powerful identity. For example, I have a daily routine. When I wake up, I don't touch my phone. I immediately go towards reading my goal card, right? My anchor. And then I visualize, right? Because my mind is in theta. I visualize from my alter ego, from the best version of myself, of the goals and things that I'm going to achieve. And then I live from the end state. I tap into that mental state and I become fervent. So I get up and I'm energized. And as I'm getting ready in the morning, I'm playing affirmations that affirm to me what I'm working towards while my mind is in theta. This is how you mentally hack yourself, fellas, okay? You have to be able to create a routine for you, a ritual that's going to help you tap into that mental state, whether it's right before going to work, right before giving a speech, right before getting on a sales call, right before closing a deal, right before networking, anything that is of importance to you. You have to be able to create these systems and a ritual that's going to get you into that state. And then from there, simple, daily practice, fellas. Daily, not once, not twice a week, every single day for the rest of your life. Simple. This isn't a short cookie cutter trick. No, you need to fully commit to this version of yourself. This is how I got out of being a poor little Haitian boy to a man that does decently well for myself, that coaches guys from all over the world overcome their limiting beliefs. Okay? You need to begin showing up as this version of yourself consistently. And you do this by the ritual, by the daily routine, by your daily habits that you do when nobody's around you. Listen to me. When nobody's around you, right? How consistent are you for yourself? How much do you show up for yourself? Okay? If you want to be appreciated and revered in public, you're going to have to respect yourself twice as much in private. Now, let's talk about it. You need to banish your comfort zone. Necesitas salir de tu zona de confort. Okay? You're going to have to leave your comfort zone, right? This was me. I never complain. I'm a hardworking man. I was doing okay for myself. I'm working at FedEx. I have a consistent job, but I was a shell of the man that I knew that I could be. I was a shell. I was a fraction. And they say that the eyes are the windows to the soul. Well, you can take a look in my eyes and see that I was unfulfilled. I needed to get out of my comfort zone. Okay? And so, as I once said before, it is scary when a man becomes everything he said that he would be. Okay? Now, these are the 3 steps right here, okay? Number 1 is desire. Desire is the cause of all creation, right? If you think about it, why do we do all this? Why do we hunt? Why do we hustle? Why do we grind? Why and how does civilization even exist? Men had desire. By our nature, men are creative. We are creative beings. And so having that desire, right? Having that desire is where you need to pull from in order to self-aggrandize. But it isn't enough alone. Your ambition is not enough, fellas. Secondly, you're going to have to decide. As I said before, the word decide, Latin, the means from, and side means to kill. You're going to have to burn your ships, burn your bridges, and go all in on yourself with this alter ego. This alter ego is a completely different person from you while still being the same you at the same time. I hope that made sense. It's just a different facet of your psyche, a different facet of your mind, a different facet of your personality that you can tap into once you create it and once you decide to embody this man. And then number 3, you need to act. You need to act. Stop mentally masturbating. Stop watching all of these self-improvement videos like this one and not taking any steps or not taking any actions. Okay? Action is the instrument of destiny. A man cannot actualize and manifest his destiny without first desire, deciding, and then acting. Acting does not mean that you're perfect. It just means that you choose to take the continuous steps and take the effort, do the effort, right? To aggrandize yourself and get better and get further along your journey. Now, let's talk about it, fellas. Once you accept him, once you accept this new version of yourself, on the left, I was at my lowest. I was living in Las Vegas and I was kicked out of the apartment that I was living in and I was homeless. I was homeless. And it took me a lot to get from where I used to be to where I'm at now. Once you accept this new self-concept of yourself, everything changes for you. The first thing that's going to happen is inner conflict. That's the first thing that's going to happen, okay? Your new concept of self will cause initial chaos in your life. So that being said, you might as well design your ultimate self without any constraints. And what I mean by this is once you start to identify as this alter ego, this other side of you, this better side of you, your old self-image and your old paradigm is going to combat. It's going to combat this new self-image, okay? And you cannot serve two masters. You're going to have to choose which master is going to rule you. And it needs to be the alter ego, okay? So set aside who you were and visualize the limitless potential of who you can become, okay? Unleash your imagination and define your ideal persona. You have to really get down to the nitty-gritty of who you want to be and then become that guy. And then secondly, embody him fully. Embody the alter ego. Kobe had Black Mamba, right? Bruce Wayne had Batman. Superman, well, Clark Kent had Superman, right? You hear about all these great entertainers and athletes, right? For example, Beyonce has Sasha Fierce or whatever. Regardless of if you watch entertainment, if you pay attention, what they're really telling you is they're able to tap into different states. And a lot of men aren't even aware that you have the capacity to tap into different states within your control. You don't have to accept the reality that you're living in right now, okay? And so you need to live as this self, right? Through consistent, again, daily action. Emulate the behaviors, the confidence, the presence of your heroic idea, okay? Let your actions and decisions reflect this new identity, and eventually you will become this new version of yourself. This isn't faking it. I've said before, I created a video where I said the secret ingredient to everything a man wants in life is delusion. And I meant that. Delusion is the secret ingredient. The man that thinks that he can't and the man that thinks that he can't are both right. You have to delude yourself to greatness, okay? Now, thirdly, once you delude yourself to greatness and you fight the inner conflict, right, by accepting this alter ego, you've created it. You've created it. Now you need to accept it. Accept what you have created. You then transform. Witness your alter ego. Merge with your authentic self, becoming one. Gradually, the qualities of your heroic persona will integrate into your core being, resulting in a profound and lasting transformation. I always talk about sustaining your dominance. This is how you sustain your dominance, right? Allow it to integrate with your core being, this new concept of self, which is also truly a part of you, just from a different frequency. You will delude yourself to grandeur and preeminence, meaning status, high esteem, right? You'll now have to access, right? Or you'll now have access to this version of you at a whim. The same way how before game time, Kobe can just snap into Black Mamba, or right before a warrior goes into war, they'll do a ritual, right? Some people will channel the spirit of Ogun, the god of war, right? Many different civilizations have been able to tap into these energies. You can do this to reach any level of life. But here's the thing, fellas. I'm not gonna lie to you. He needs to be fed. And what I mean by he needs to be fed, man, hold on, let me get a quick sip of water. What I mean by this when I say that he needs to be fed, fellas, when you create an alter ego, you create a beast, you create a successful, competent beast, okay? The journey of embracing your alter ego is not without its challenges. I'm not gonna lie to you, right? You will face resistance from within. Like I said, you will face chaos internally. Internally, you will be at war for quite some time, at least initially, right? As your old self clings to familiar habits. You were doing so well. This is why oftentimes guys fail when they go on a diet, right? Because you have the identity of somebody that's fat or somebody that's obese. You go on a diet and maybe you're doing good for a week, but then you binge again. It's because you haven't accepted this new version of yourself, this new concept of self, right? Doubt, fear, and insecurity will creep in. They will. That's a guarantee. And your new identity will want to be fed. So though your old concept of self will be fighting tooth and nail, trying to claw back to gain the driver's seat, your new concept that you've created, you can't neglect it. It will want to be fed. So be careful what you create. For me, I created a competent, smooth, polyglot business owner, Renaissance man that I am today, which I sought to be 10 years ago. That's the truth. And I am that now. But I constantly have to refine, get better, learn new skills, challenge myself, right? So I can be better to serve my clients, serve my family. You have to keep getting better. You cannot starve this alter ego, right? Kobe could not just rest on his accolades when he won 2-3 championships. No, he had to keep going. It's that insatiable drive and desire for conquest. Once you open up that can, you can't close it. You have to win. You have to dominate. Oftentimes people, and I'm just going to say this, average people or people who do not have the vision will say, damn, that guy's a billionaire. Why is he working so hard? Why is Elon working so hard? Why is Bezos doing this? Why is The Rock doing so many things? Why does Shaq have his hands in so many different businesses? State Farm, General, they have so much money. And the response to that is, what the fuck else is there to do when you're at the top? Kick your feet up? No, because then that's not a life. You have to get better. You have to drive. You have to keep stretching and keep growing. This is why the uber wealthy and successful constantly want more. They constantly innovate and they grow and they pivot and try different things. Because if you're not growing, you're dying, fellas. So when you create this alter ego, you have to feed him, period. Okay? And from there, things might not excite you as much anymore. I'm going to be honest. Once you start to reach a certain level of success and you start to get the things that you wanted, like for me right now, being candid, making a lot more money would be fantastic, but it doesn't change the quality of my life. I don't really need for much. Yeah, I've got some things that I want to do in terms of serving my family and getting my mom a house and then serving back and building schools and things of that nature. But in terms of your quality of life, once you get out of survival mode, things don't really excite you like that anymore, right? I've personally lived all over the world. I've seen a lot. I have a lot more to see. I don't know everything, but there is something that's called hedonic adaptation. And I want you gentlemen to Write this down. And hedonic adaptation is so real because it essentially states that you work so hard towards something and you put your happiness off on this goal. And then once you get there, yeah, you get a spike of dopamine, you get a high, but then you crash all the way down to baseline. And now it takes a bigger event for you to feel that same high. If not, like, you won't even feel that kind of high. You have to get something that's even higher. This is why you see celebs that they're doing drugs, or they always have to perform, or it's just things aren't that exciting anymore to people that experience certain luxuries in life. And this is where I'm gonna talk about this in a little bit, but this is where discipline and the power of detachment comes into play, right? And so when you tap into higher versions of yourself and begin seeing some form of success, right? Whether this is money, women, whatever worldly things that you want as men, right? Your old highs will eventually become your new lows. I'll say it again, your old highs become your new lows. And what this means is what you used to perceive as so cool, as something that you wanted, once you get it, it's the same effect as guys that get a Ferrari or they get a Lambo, and then after 2-3 years, it's normal. This is why when you visualize, you have to already imagine yourself experiencing these things so it's normal to you. Okay, so you're not geeking out when it happens. You can be happy, but it should be normal because in your mind, you already have it. Okay, so by doing this, you make sure to stay grounded and keep a good circle around you. Keeping a good circle around you as you elevate yourself, whether a brotherhood or family, is so important. And you need to absolutely exercise gratitude and embrace all of your complexity as a man. Though you create this alter ego, you're still the old version of you. They have to coexist like yin and yang. You are a complex man, and you have many different mental states, and you have many different personalities inside of one. And so you have to be able to navigate all of these complexities of yourself and fully accept yourself as a man, right? I'm a unique person. I'm uncanny. I'm peculiar. And I accept all these different parts of me. And it took me years to accept these different parts of me because I used to get called weird and strange. I'm a weird kid. You're going to get called all these things, but you are who you are. And the second that you can accept that, right? The second that you can accept that, you then have that presence, like I spoke about, that magnetic presence. And very few men walking this earth have a magnetic presence. And it's when that man has truly accepted and aligned and is congruent with his entire self. And this is where the power of detachment comes into play. You have to look at life objectively, fellas, and not get too sucked into its trivialities, as I mentioned at the beginning. So I'll tie it back into this. When you create this alter ego and you start to see success, because you will, if you follow this blueprint, right? This is literally what I have our guys do in Modern Day Renaissance, man. Okay, my mentorship. Once you start to see success, you have to learn how to detach and accept all the complexities that you have as a man. And this is how you start to sustain your dominance. Okay? This is how you start to sustain your dominance. Once you have accepted that you are this man, accepted that you have these things, and you detach from it, this is when things come to you effortlessly. This is how you sustain things. And so if you are a man right now and you're in a position of status, and perhaps you are a corporate man, you are a businessman, you're a father, you're a leader, or you're just a man that wants to improve in all areas of your life by creating and tapping into your different mental states, tap that first link that's pinned in the comment section or in my description. I'm not going to hard sell you. Let's get on a call, you with me directly, or you with somebody from our team, and let's see if it makes sense for us to work together. I cannot work with everybody, and I don't want to work with everybody. But if we determine that you are a good fit, brother, let's get to work. Because every day that you let go by, you're robbing yourself of the man that you could be. You're robbing your family of the man that you could be. And more importantly, you're robbing the people that you need and that you could be serving of the man that you could and the man that you need to be. I'll see you guys in the next video. Salute.